tell you, Linda, I quit biting my nails last year, and I'm just relishing in having long nails for the first time in my life.
Okay, I pressed the live button. Now let's just see if this is showing up yet. Although, yeah, it should be there now. There, okay. The live button. YouTube. Now let's just see great. If this is. I can even showing hear it. And I wish I wasn't. Yeah, it should be there now. I can turn this. There, okay. The live button. YouTube. Let's just see if this is. I can even showing hear it. And I wish I wasn't. Yeah, it should be there now. I can turn this. There, okay. There, should be. Oof. More reasonable now.
That was chaos.
Yeah, I was hearing it back at us from both Facebook and YouTube. Okay, so refresh my Facebook, see if it's there, make sure we're happening. Great. So Linda Manzer is here, and she's just in what's called the green room in the thing. So Linda, I forgot to explain this to you. You can probably hear me. I'm just going to play one of these videos first to start off. Linda Manzer is our guest today, and of course she's an amazing guitar builder, has been for 1 billion years. She's really young, but she's been doing it for 1 billion years. And she's really become one of the world's foremost builders of anything, especially guitars. So she's wicked awesome. We've been friends for over 30 years, and yeah, I have nothing more to say except that she's amazing. And we're going to look at something really cool. Let's look at this crazy guitar that Linda made for something called the Group of 7 Guitar Project, which was something that happened just a few short years ago. There's a beautiful film made about it. And I'm in it, and Bruce Cockburn is in it, and a whole bunch of other people. Here's Bruce Cockburn playing the Lauren Harris guitar. Well, one of the Group of 7, one of the painters in the Group of 7 was Lauren Harris, and this is a guitar inspired by his work. Okie dokie. So that's a little taste of Bruce Cockburn playing the Lauren Harris guitar, designed by our guest, who I will bring in now. Ba-doom, there she is. So Linda, I forgot to ask you, are you in Toronto or Almont, or where are you?
I'm in Almont, Ontario, birthplace of James Naismith, inventor of basketball.
There you go.
Oh, no way.
So now famous not just for one reason, also you're there. So that's cool. Yeah.
Hi, Linda. Nice to see you. Long time.
Hi. How you doing, Brooke?
Good.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, and I haven't sat in on a DRGA session in a while, so this is great to be here. It's awesome.
It's really good to see you guys.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. So Linda, you just said where you were. Are you in Toronto?
No.
You're in Almont, the home of James Naismith, inventor of basketball.
Is this how the interview is going to
go? So how are things there in Jamaica? You're really enjoying the hot weather and the local
every day, all day. I love it.
Yeah, terrible fate.
Thank goodness he can play guitar so well.
When I do the CNN thing here, I have to sort of crowd Brooke a little bit so that we're both in the shot here. So I might look like I'm leaving.
Could I scooch in this way? Would that be helpful?
We could be like we're married or something.
Oh, that's.
I tried to match you as much as I could.
Anyway, Linda, it's great to have you here. I'm sure a lot of people watching know a lot about your work, and of course you've been guitar builder to the stars for a long time.
That's right.
You have some very, very prominent and well-known people who play your instruments. So I thought I'd ask you a little bit about how some of those connections started eventually. But first off, maybe you could just give us a quick background, like where you grew up and all that kind of stuff. I've known you for a long time, but I don't know much about like what you were doing before you were making guitars.
Not a lot. I'm kind of a one-trick pony. I went to a couple of art colleges before I made guitars, but I was born in Toronto, raised there. And I had a whole bunch of other jobs until I found my kind of calling, which is, sorry, somebody's phone just went off in the other end of the house here. You've got dogs, I've got phones.
Yeah, our dog's freaking out because there's a delivery person at the door.
It's all right. It'll end in a second. Please ignore them.
You've got somebody at the door.
Yeah,
It's all right.
It's just a delivery.
And I've been making guitars. Okay. I've been making guitars since 1974. I made dulcimers in high school before that. I got started because I saw Joni Mitchell at Mariposa Folk Festival playing a dulcimer.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted one because I was a budding young, not very good folk singer. And I wanted to, emulate Joni Mitchell. So I went to buy it and it was too expensive. So the fellow at the music store, Toronto Folklore Center, Paul Hornbeck, actually, thank you, Paul Hornbeck, talked me into buying a kit, which was half price. Took it home, made it, and the bug bit, and I suddenly realized what it was I really wanted to do. Well, I didn't actually realize for a few years. I went to a couple of art colleges and bumped around painting and continuing to attempt to be a bad folk singer. And then, luckily, I kind of decided around in the fall of 74, to focus, and I approached Jean Larrivée to apprentice with him, and he took me as an apprentice. So that was amazing. That I worked with him for 3.5 years, and then I went out on my own, and as I just started working on my own stuff, and I got a call from Jimmy DeQuisto, archtop builder in Long Island, legendary, and it was unbelievable that he called me for a mistake that he had read in an article, and he wanted some clarification. And he invited me, in the end, we ended up having a nice chat, and he invited me to his shop in Long Island, and we agreed that I would study with him for a while. So I apprenticed with him I went down and took lessons from him for about a year, off and on for about a year. And that's how I learned how to make archtop guitars. So I worked in his shop alongside him on John D'Angelico's workbench, which was kind of mind-blowing, if you know who John D'Angelico is, using his hand tools. And so I had two amazing teachers, and then I've been on my own path since then.
Cool. There's a comment here that we were getting a bit of an echo on Linda's audio. Is that still happening, folks? Can you let me know? I know that this happens sometimes. There's a certain setting that I have to have. Okay, the echo is gone. Well, at least it was for a second. Now it's back. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to remember how I fixed this last time. Just bear with me. I think it has to do with these output levels here. And
Do you want me to talk?
yeah, you can go
You
ahead.
don't want me to sing.
Right. Okay.
For he's a jolly good fellow.
Let me know, folks, if the echo is still there.
Yeah.
Just Linda's voice. Yeah. Okay. Why? Why was that last time? Let me just think about this.
Do you want me to? Should we continue or?
Yeah, it's just that if I don't, then people will lose the link.
We don't continue.
So
if we don't continue.
If we don't continue.
Yeah.
We'll lose the link.
Yeah. Just let me think for a second. Why is that? I'm trying to remember why this happens. Okay, this volume is down. This volume is down. And okay. Yeah, take notes next time.
do you want me to keep?
mute her speakers. Yeah. No, I don't think her speakers are on. She's talking through. She's using headphones.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. Just hold on one sec, folks. I'll just devote myself to this for one moment. See what I can do. The sound settings for this.
You still hear Gracie barking her head off?
Yep.
Hi, everyone.
There's quite a delay.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
is.
hold on a sec. How about now? Does that change anything? Can you say something, Linda?
Here I am in lovely Elmont, Ontario, speaking.
Can you hear us,
No?
Linda?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay, so that's not
And your
happening.
little dogs.
Okay. Okay, so the output's coming there.
I'm just gonna go get Gracie to. Be
How
quiet
about
for a second.
now, Linda?
Okay. I can hear myself delayed by about half a second.
Okay.
Oh, that sounds better. I'm gone. Is that more direct?
I don't know.
That sounds better.
I'm trying a couple of things here. I'm not sure which one's working. So that fixed it, Dale says 1 minute ago.
Yay!
How
Thanks, Dale.
about now? Echo is back. It says Brian. Cheapers. No, bad again.
Cheapers.
Okay. I think it has to do with this output. The problem is if I don't do that, how can I hear you? No, that's got to be there because that's you. And it's the system audio. I bet you that's it. Okay.
Is it me?
Please stand by. No, it's definitely not you. I've had this problem once before, and I'm trying to remember what I did to fix it. Try now. Can I hear you? Can you say something, Linda?
Sorry. Hi, I'm back. I'm sitting here patiently.
But you're okay. So
My mother would be proud of me.
It was fixed and it got worse. Okay. So the problem is it seems like when I fix it, yeah, now it's okay. Problem is I can't hear you now.
It's okay.
And why is that? Okay, that's.
Oh, lovely technology.
Yeah. It's always great when it works. I know I fixed this before. You can hear both? What does that mean? Oh, you can hear it both. Yeah, I just can't hear Linda on my end, which is bizarre.
Well, I'm not talking.
I'm the one running the show. Okay. What else can I try here? Interview. Oh, that's okay. Grass gets started to play on speakers, which could result in an echo. Turn on echo cancellation or use headphones with remote guests. Yes. Has that fixed it?
I'm gonna testing 1, 2, 3.
hear both of
Testing
you.
1, 2, 3.
But I can't hear
Back in
Linda.
Elmont.
Linda can hear us, yeah?
I can hear you. Yeah.
This is crazy. Why can't
This would be great if I knew sign language.
try this? How about now? Okay, now.
Oh, okay.
Now we can hear Linda.
Okay.
And Linda, can you talk and
You can hear me.
Is the
I'm
echo
gonna
gone?
just everything's it's beautiful.
It's not
and
on your
lovely.
end. Yeah, good.
Eastern Ontario.
Okay, Dale's saying it's
Is it
still
good?
good.
Is it good?
Are we still good?
Still
Looking
good.
for one more confirmation. Okay, good hearing you all, it
all.
says. All right, I think I figured it out.
Can hear.
Okay, so that was,
Whoa!
I had to turn this echo cancellation button on. That was new. Okay, great.
All right.
Okay, good.
We're good?
Looks like we're good. Very sorry about all of that. So, yes, you
Okay.
you got into the dulcimer first and dequisto guitars and the whole thing. Oh, no, it says the echo's back. Oh, what is going on?
But I'm not talking.
This is crazy. Oh, this feels so junior.
Have you ever had this problem before?
Yeah, I have, but I fixed it last time. Okay, so. Okay, what about if I do this?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
And
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I don't hear any delay on this
Okay.
end. That's
no,
the funny
I can't hear it either. That's the thing.
No
Like
delay.
we don't
Yeah.
hear it. It just ends up happening.
You sound great.
Yeah, it's just the people.
Maybe it's the one person.
Yeah, it's just no.
Maybe they've got-
everybody's saying it.
Everyone's hearing it.
Okay, what about
Everyone?
now? What about now? Does that change anything?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Please, please, please. Echo, go away.
Someone says,
Hi.
ask Linda to sing.
Yeah.
No, you don't want. That'll make everything worse.
Oh, shoot.
Okay, still looking for a
Looking-
clue from people as to whether or not the sound is any better from Linda's side.
I suppose I should be talking while you're.
Yeah, okay, so everybody's hearing Linda echo. Short bounce.
Everyone's hearing the echo.
Yeah, it cannot be gotten rid of, and I've tried.
Can you invite them all over to your house?
I've tried every possible combination here. This is so frustrating. Okay, so that's the sound I'd put. Now, why?
This is a dog eating the cable.
Could be the dog eating the cable.
Yeah, or the kibble.
Hi, Gracie. Hi. Come lie down. Come on.
Gracie. Can you see Gracie? No, maybe not.
Eating the cable.
Yeah, she's eating it.
Hi, girl.
She was.
Girl, wanna come say hi?
Interview.
This is our shy dog.
Dog. Ah,
This is our shy girl. And sometimes
being watched by hundreds.
I know, right?
Come on. You can come lie down.
Is it both of us echoing or just me?
Just you.
Oh, great. Maybe it's some weird, cheapo headphones? I don't know.
No. It's not from you at all. It's the software, and I'm sorry about this, everybody, but the software sometimes befuddles me.
It always befuddles me.
Broadcast system audio. And this broadcast. Automatically mute microphone and guest audio during video playback. Yes. Yeah. Does she have a monitor? No, she doesn't have her monitor speakers on. That's why she's using headphones. Anyway, my small group that joins every week knows that I've had this problem twice before. Once with John Gom and once with Dustin Furlow, and both times, well, one of the times I got it fixed okay, and I wish I could remember what the problem was, because if it's the output, but the thing is, if I don't do that, okay, none of these make sense though to do anything else. Frustrating. Well, I don't know. We may have to reschedule this, folks. I can make it public again. And I'll have to figure out what the befuddling problem is here. Because...
It's not, you're sure it's nothing I've done?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm
100%.
because I'm very good at...
No, 100%. It's not you. It's not you.
Okay, all right.
It's
I'd like to take
You're
blame.
just ready to take it.
input.
I'm sure it's something I did.
How about now? I did another echo cancellation choice here. Okay, so Linda.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. I'm. Is it working now? Maybe.
No, I don't have Facebook open on multiple tabs or browsers. Let me just check this. No,
That might be it.
no, I've got them all turned off. Like all the. Oh, that fixed it. It says Susie says a minute ago.
Get
Okay.
out.
So what did I turned okay, there's 2 different buttons you have to press on this damn thing to get echo cancellation. It's really frustrating. And
it's not my fault.
It's totally not your fault. Okay, I see a lot of yeses and a lot of we're goods. Okay. So sorry about the long delay. If you don't mind, Linda, we'll go a few extra minutes to make up for this. Anyway, it's so stupid. Apologies, folks. That's a live television. So, yes. So, Take two. So you did
touch a button.
You did the dulcimer thing. You did the dulcimer thing. It's so interesting how many luthiers got started doing the dulcimer thing. I know that that's how Oscar Graf got into it. Oscar Graf from Germany originally has lived in Canada for a long time. I think he's mostly retired now from the building thing, but he was a furniture maker.
He's not far from me either.
That's right. He was a furniture maker for many years, and then immigrated to Canada, and then got into making dulcimers because they were huge because of Joni in the early 70s, and then he got into guitar building. So it's so interesting how many parallel lines there are there. So when you went to work with, you actually worked with dequisto?
I was sort of a student. I didn't work on his actual instruments, but I studied with him, yeah. I went into his shop in Long Island, and I would work beside him, and I watched what he did. And really, studying him and watching what he was doing was the best education. And I watched him interact with his clients, and I started a guitar there, and he kind of guided me through my very first archtop. So I had no idea how to build an archtop at all. I was very unfamiliar with the instrument.
And silly of me, because I was trying to fiddle with the technology, you mentioned that you ended up working with dequisto because of a misunderstanding or a misreading of something. What was that about?
Yeah, what happened was somebody had written an article about him, and they said in the article that he scraped his guitars if they had flaws. But what he'd misread it, that they scraped guitars if they had flaws. And they actually wrote was they scrapped guitars if they had flaws. So he called me up to correct that. He thought somehow I had said it, which I hadn't, but that was how I was introduced. He called me up a little bit mad, that was his way of introducing himself to me. And so we ended up talking for about 20 minutes, and I had to kind of calm him down, like, no. And I was like a huge fan of him, and like many guitar makers, we had no books or instruction when I started. There was no internet. There was, it was very word of mouth. There's one book by Irving Sloan. In the back, there was about 10 or 15 pages about Jimmy DeQuisto. And all of us who were interested in guitar making studied every one of those black and white photographs with a magnifying glass, trying to see every tool in the background, tried to figure out how to make archtop guitars from that skimpy little article. But he was legendary. So the fact that he called me out of the blue on my phone while I was in my little workshop in Toronto above a pool hall on College Street was just mind-blowing that he found my phone number at all. I called me. And so I went down and met him about a few months later, and we agreed that I would study with him.
Amazing.
Which, I wasn't really particularly interested in archtops, but I was. Once I went into his shop, I understood that there was something I wasn't seeing or hearing until I had met his archtops. And then I realized there was something incredible about the instrument that I just hadn't tuned into yet. And he introduced me to the beautiful world of of archtop building. So I'm pretty influenced by him, obviously.
So all because of a letter P.
Scrape.
Yes.
So was he kind of
that's true.
Being renowned and whatnot, when you guys were kind of trying to gather information just from articles, or like you said, have trying to figure out what tools he was using and whatnot from a photograph, did you get a sense of that he was really withholding of that kind of information, and so he was kind of letting you into this process? This wasn't something that he did very often. It sounds like he was was he a fairly protective person of his craft?
Not really. It just really was just the system was such that we didn't know how to find each other. There was probably about a handful of individual builders at that time. I was an apprentice of Larrivée, and there was Michael Gurian was probably the only other independent builder at that time. Maybe a few other people out west that I did, but because that out west meant you didn't have a clue about anything they were doing. And maybe an article would come out in Fret's magazine, and you would hear, their name.
Right.
The community didn't really form until a few years later, when we actually arranged some conventions to meet each other, and it was it was just this outpouring of information sharing, and we found each other. And those people who I met those many decades ago are some of my best friends to this day. That we're all really. We found our tribe,
That's so cool.
because it's kind of a lonely business, right? You work in your shop by yourself, and you're just hunkered down over a workbench cutting wood and sanding and gluing stuff together. You sort of tune out the rest of the world so you can tune in the guitar.
Right.
So once we found each other, we formed very close bonds.
Oh, that's interesting.
I remember when you and I went to Healdsburg a few years ago. And there was a whole gathering of you guys, all you luthiers, and just you're so happy to see each other. It was just this fantastic sense of community. Yeah.
It's really
Sorry, Brooke, I
welcoming.
didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
The other thing I've noticed too about and this is just purely silliness, but it seems like a very introverted focus. You know what I mean? Like, would you call yourself an introvert in your craft? Does that sound like a reasonable question? Like, when you're in that zone, are you it is a solitary thing, but is that kind of your natural state anyway? I guess is my question.
I think that it's a good question, because the word introvert comes up a lot with what we do, but I think the definition of an introvert is somebody who recharges when they're alone, and they get energy from being alone. Yeah. And I find I get very grounded when I can spend a couple of hours in a row just working with the wood. But I think most people who know me would also call me an extrovert.
Okay. Yeah, I feel you. I'm both as well. I get that entirely.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So when you were done with that particular Long Island relationship, did you stay connected to Long Island and continue going back and forth, or had you kind of bonded with Long Island itself and grown a community there, or was it just when you were done with that apprenticeship, did you spend much time after that?
Well, my apprenticeship with Jimmy dequisto was in Long Island, in his workshop right at the northern tip in Greenport, actually. But that was forming a relationship with the other guitar makers was actually in I think it was Scranton, Pennsylvania, with a group called Asia, the Association of Stringed Instrument Artisans. And that was a gathering of a bunch of maybe 100 guitar makers, 50 to 100 guitar makers. And that's when we all met and had workshops, and was very connected with the Martin Guitar Company, Dick Boak. And I met people like Michael Gurian, Roger Sadowski, Tom Rebecki, Steve Grimes, John Monteleone, all these people who are pretty well household names in the guitar making community. And that's when we all met and started sharing information. And that is, and in fact, I see those people as often as I can. I've seen most of the people I just named. I just saw them 2 weeks ago at the Woodstock Guitar Festival. We just hung out and had this big dinner together, and we just talk about all guitar stuff. That we geek out on guitar nerd information that might be painfully boring to somebody else to listen to.
Well, I think you're in the right spot for all of that.
When you get into like purfling chats for 3 hours, it gets pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So of course your time with Jean Larrivée, of course, was very important for you, and along with a whole bunch of other wonderful guitar builders, some of whom have become household names themselves. People like Grit Laskin, of course, and David Wren, and a whole slew of other people. So at what point did you sort of like branch out and sort of hang up your shingle, and Manzer guitars is now a thing? And after how many years with Jean and with dequisto and people like that, did you feel the confidence to do that?
It happened pretty naturally. I call those people you're talking about my litter mates because we were all the kids, the Larrivée kids, and
Larrivée
there's
kids from
it's just-
Nickelodeon show.
Love it.
and David Wren and Grit Laskin, Sergei DeYoung and Tony Duggan Smith, George Gray, and we all left around the same time, and all our guitars at the beginning were quite similar, and we were all. I was with Larrivée for 3.5 years. I think that was about how long, 3 years people would stay with him, something like that. And you were kind of ready at that point. You'd learned enough and you're hungry to go out on your own. And of course, it was this shock the moment you left this well-equipped workshop and you went into your own ill-equipped workshop and had no tools, no, and you suddenly realized you had no idea what you were really doing. So you had to kind of we leaned on each other,
Yeah.
and we competed with each other. I mean, I remember Grit Laskin and David Wren and I all sort of vying for the same customers, and it was this interesting relationship because obviously I was trying to make a living, and so were they. But we also were really good friends, and we needed each other for sharing information and supporting each other.
Right.
So it formed this interesting, deep bond between all of us. But what actually happened eventually was we all kind of went into our own direction and developed our own style and developed our own customers, the people who kind of got what we did a little bit more than maybe somebody else. And we found people who were really into what we did and supported us. And that actually has, we've all got very different, it's like ice cream with very different flavors. That's really probably a bad analogy, but
No,
that's the best one I can come up with.
Analogy. That's perfect. That's perfect. So when you say that
They all start cold and with milk.
You warm up and melt.
Sorry, I don't know. I'm trying to justify my bad analogy.
You're over analogizing now, I think.
So when you say you kind of all found when you've all found your types of clients and the people that gravitate to you and vice versa, do you think that long term has that kind of client shifted and changed, or has that kind of been the clientele that you keep today? Does that make sense?
I would say it's more I've shifted and changed because I've become more interested in different certain aspects of guitar making interest me more than others. So for instance, I'm not really interested in classical guitars, strict classical guitars or flamenco, which is something Grit Laskin is great, and Sergei does. Sergei DeYoung. And so I'm kind of right now I'm quite interested in archtop guitars, although I'm really loving flat top guitars as well, and of course anything experimental, like a sitar guitar or something with a lot of strings on it fascinates me. And I'm also sorry to interrupt. Yeah, the Pikasso. Yeah, that's okay.
And so a question I had. Oh, actually, let me just deal with a question off the internet here. Somebody who obviously their parents got a lot of fun naming them Stealth Parrot. Stealth Parrot wants to know, Linda, how much do you try new things when building a new instrument versus sticking with tried and true methods? So, do you kind of have like a standard guitar that you've made a lot of, or that kind of thing? And then also, of course, you've made the experimental guitars. So I guess, how often do you feel yourself veering into that sort of experimental or new kind of venture kind of way of doing things?
I do about one experimental wacky instrument a year because I like to have that percolating in the background where I can stretch. But generally speaking, as many as the weird looking instruments I've made, I'm actually in a lot of ways a very conservative builder, because when I make changes, I think it's a bad idea to make, with a few exceptions, to make too many changes at the same time, because otherwise you don't know if which one of those two things changed something. So I will make one change and maybe try it a couple of times on a couple of guitars to see what the effect it has, like the wedge, for instance. I didn't tell anybody I did that for a long time, where it's skinnier under your arm and wider on the knee, to see if it made a big acoustical difference. And then I realized it didn't.
Okay.
But I tried it on several guitars, probably tried it for about 2 or 3 years before I actually went public with saying I had, come up with this thing. That in that way, I'm conservative, but visually I'm not. I mean, every once in a while I go crazy, and just stretch, like the Lorne Harris guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I had to go big and bold with that one. But I felt like I had enough fundamentals that I could do that,
Cool. I have
that
a
I could
question.
stretch.
I have a question for you. Of course, two of your most well-known clients are two of my favorite guitar players, and they were my favorite guitar players before I even knew they played your guitars.
I know who they are.
Yes. Phil Blipschnips and Yvonne Blipner. No, they are.
Yes.
Yes. No, they are, of course, Bruce Cockburn and Pat Metheny. And I'm curious, just you don't have to get into huge detail, but how did you make those connections? Did they just hear about your guitars, or did you talk to them? Did you seek them out? How do those kind of relationships start? I'm sure they're all very organic.
They're both a little bit different. Like you, I was a huge Bruce Cockburn fan from before I started building guitars. And when I worked with Larrivée, one day he walked up the stairs because he was a Larrivée client. And I was unbelievably nervous. And I believe I was working on, Larrivée was making him an ebony cutaway. I think it was one of the first cutaways that Larrivée did. Believe it or not, there was a time before cutaways on guitars. And he walked up the stairs and I was sanding away on it. And he said, "Is this my guitar?" And I said, "Yes," but there was another one right beside it. And so there was two of them that out of ebony. And I remember John had told him that he was only making one of ever out of this guitar, which wasn't true. There was two of them. So my first encounter with Bruce was realizing that there was sort of a lie going on, and then I was sort of part of it. So that was slightly embarrassing. And anyway, so we ended up, I became friends with him, sort of, of course I was completely in awe of him. So I kind of got to know him over the years, but he had guitars made by David Wren and by Larrivée, and then one day he called me up and asked me if I knew what a charango was, and he asked me to make him one.
Wow.
And so I made him a charango, and I did have no idea what a charango was, but that didn't stop him or me. Yeah. And then with Pat Metheny, I heard him performing with Joni Mitchell in her band, and I had gone to see her perform in Detroit. And there was Jaco Pastorius and Lyle Mays on keyboards, and amazing band.
Sure.
But when Pat stepped...
No, I guess it was Michael Brecker.
Was it? Yeah. It might have been Michael Brecker.
Yeah.
And Pat stepped forward to do a solo, and I was floored by the solo he did. I think it was Amelia.
Mm-hmm.
And my life almost sort of turned on an axis at that moment. And I actually... remember the moment. It's one of those things that's scarred in your memory. And I bought every album he'd ever made, and I started listening to him. And then when he came to Toronto, I actually approached him and managed to get a very quick meeting with him, which resulted in him ordering a guitar from me by the end of the evening. And I made the first guitar for him in 1981. And that began I think we're over 25 instruments now, where I made pretty much one a year for him of something. He would come up with ideas that I never said no.
Yeah.
So,
including not to the Pikasso guitar.
Whatever I delivered.
The Pikasso guitar, was that simply a matter of Pat saying, "Can you make a guitar with as many strings as you can possibly put on it"? Was that kind of the dare, or did he have something more specific?
That was exactly. No, that's exactly what he asked for.
Oh, I love it.
That's
exactly what he asked for. And so I.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just to follow, if I could tag a second part onto that question, how long into your working relationship with Pat Metheny was that conversation? When did that take place? Just to tag on the end of.
That was maybe 2 or 3 years in. And I think he had just come out with This Is Not America, and he had another guitar on order at the time, but he was doing interviews in his office in Boston, and in between interviews we would talk. I was there for the afternoon, and we would talk about it. So by the end of the day, I had kind of come up with the skeleton idea of it, and then 5 months of planning and sending notes back and forth to him. I finally we came up with kind of an idea, and then I just dove in and started building it. And then I think when he opened the case, we were both equally terrified. When I finally presented it to him.
Strapping on your helmet.
He said he was a bit afraid to touch it. Yeah. And when I strung it up the first time, I wore safety glasses.
Oh God.
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah, you don't want that to implode. That's so nuts.
And who knew if it would?
I've told our small group, but I don't think the wider community knows this necessarily, that you were actually asked to make an exact replica of that guitar. I remember you telling me the story of, every once in a while you get a call from somebody saying, hey, could you make another one of those Pikasso guitars? And then when they found out what you would just have to charge for it, I mean, just the amount of work, they'd all go, okay, I'll think about it, kind of thing. And then I guess finally you had a well-known collector call you up to ask for a replica, and you threw the price out at them, and they just sort of said, we can do that. I guess it was a wealthy person. And so when you made the duplicate, when you made the exact copy of that guitar, you had a party at your house, and I was still living in Toronto then, and so was Bruce and a bunch of other people, Rob Campbell and all these players. And you invited us all over to try it, because that's right, Rob Pilch. You invited us all over because you were about to ship it, and you said, well, I don't know if I'll ever get my hands on another one like this, and you guys are probably never going to get another chance to play one, so why don't you just come over, we'll have a little party. And it was one of the highlights of my life was I was sitting across these two sofas in your place, across from Bruce Cockburn, and he and I are passing this 42-string guitar back and forth to each other. It's like we're passing a joint around or something. Here, man, take a hit. It's like, and then we'd come up with these crazy ideas, and I'd be looking at Bruce saying, it's like you've been playing it all your life. And then he'd look at me and he'd say, it's like you've been playing it all your life. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. Thank you again for that. That was a long time ago, but that was...
It was, and what's interesting... I invited all these people over, but what I didn't tell you is I was going to film you all. So you walk in and there's these lights, and my friend was, had borrowed some camera equipment. So I actually have a film of that somewhere that I've never watched.
Amazing.
So I probably should try to find it and see if it hasn't disintegrated.
Yeah, you never know with analog stuff. A few more questions off the internet here. Barb Glanville in New Brunswick, at least that's where she was last time we checked. I think she was out on the West Coast for a while. Long time member here. She wants to know what your favorite tone woods are to build a guitar out of. Do you have any?
What I usually use on my flat top guitars is Indian rosewood for the back and sides, and German spruce or European spruce for the top. I just like that combination for what I want to do with a guitar, but I also like cedar tops. And then for my arch top guitars, I love working with European curly maple and European spruce, because it's just, for me, just got the best tone and sounds. But nowadays there's so many different types of woods. People are being, because of the devastation of the rainforest, people are being forced to use different types of woods all the time, including I actually do have Brazilian rosewood. In fact, I've got some Brazilian rosewood. I'm working on a guitar right here. There's some beautiful woods that are like here. I can show you. This is something I just bent. This is something called the tree, which is an exotic piece of wood that's just something will be somebody's guitar in a few months. So there's all sorts of amazing alternative woods. So
the tree is that famous.
When I started, it was very conservative.
The tree is that the
Very
famous
expensive.
tree that I guess was felled a long time ago by a logging company or whatever, and then sat untouched for a long time. I can't remember the whole story.
You know, to be honest, I don't even know the story. Somebody just sent me the wood and said, please make a guitar out of it. But I know it's insanely expensive, and I've been terrified working with it, to be honest.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah, Michael Watts, I think, told us the story of it several months ago, and he was our guest here. Yeah.
He would know.
Yeah. Another question David Nitz would like to know, are there identifiable things that you carried forward from your apprenticeships as you developed your own building style? So are there leftover Larrivée-isms or dequisto-isms that in your building?
Tons. Yeah, tons. I think if you were to try to guess who my teacher is in both those areas, you would know it was Larrivée and dequisto. I've really just built on the fundamentals they taught me. I haven't ventured out terribly far acoustically from what I learned from them. Visually, probably, but I'd say my style is very, very Larrivée. Even the bracing pattern is very similar to what I learned from him. And with dequisto, what I learned was feel and trusting your intuition and really listening to the woods. He was an amazingly intuitive builder who was not particularly articulate about explaining what he did, but he was really talented. He had a real gift, and I was lucky enough that I got to just watch him, and it took me years to kind of feel like I kind of got a little bit of that from him, because that's something you just get from knowing your materials and listening to them.
Cool. A question from Rachel Ann Cross here. Hi, Rachel. Nice to see you there, down in the DC area. Rachel wants to know: are you finding that there are more women who are becoming luthiers? Is that increasing?
Yes. When I started, it was, as far as I knew, it was me. And then I found out there was a couple of other women. And then now I got given an award a couple of years ago at the Woodstock Festival for Lifetime Achievement, which means I could just stop building, I guess.
Yeah,
now,
there you go.
I've achieved everything. But so thank you. But what was fantastic was because the guy running the show had made a point of inviting women guitar makers to the show. I believe there was 15 in the audience. So after as I got the award, I invited them all up on stage with me, which was amazing because I hadn't met some of them, but just the fact there was that many women guitar makers in the room at the same time was kind of special. So yes, there are more women, but there certainly could be more. At the last Woodstock show I went to, I was the only woman displaying guitars there.
Yeah, in the interim,
So,
I've met a
yeah.
few along the way. There's Meredith Coloma out in Vancouver, and she organizes the Vancouver International Guitar Festival, which I played. I don't know. I guess I played it the year before the pandemic started. So she's a great young builder out there. And then I guess Kathy Wingert is another one. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking also, oh gosh, I wish I could remember her name now. She makes the Machiavelli style guitar. She's also out in the West Coast.
Oh, Shelley Park.
Shelley Park.
Shelley
thanks.
Park, great
Yeah,
builder. Yeah.
great builder. Yeah.
Yoshia DeYoung. Yoshia DeYoung
that's
is
right.
Sergei
Sergei's
DeYoung's daughter.
Yeah,
She makes
that's right.
fantastic classical guitars.
Yes,
Peggy
she does.
White, who studied with me, is now out in Fogo, Newfoundland. Noemi Schiambri in Italy is a good friend of mine. Great builder. There's Kat Fox does repair in Vermont. Kathy Courier does repair somewhere in the Carolinas, I believe. There's more and more. Oh, and Megan Wells is a young builder in California, archtop builder, good friend of mine.
Very cool.
So some great builders. So yeah, there is, luckily, I mean, it takes a particular, it is a men's occupation, men's world, and most of the musicians are men. So, you are kind of in, but I guess, we've been kind of breaking the ice like the icebreaker, and there's more women starting to feel more comfortable in it, which is great.
Yeah, but you were definitely very
And
pioneering that way.
It felt like it at the time. Yeah.
Alexander's.
But I just
go
want
ahead.
I just want to finish that. Just that is that.
Sure. Sorry, it's easy to talk over each other on these.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to make sure though that I thank that my fellow apprentices who were really at that time when it wasn't quite as easy to be so positive about women in my field, they were so supportive, like Grit Laskin and David Wren and Larrivée and George Gray and Tony Duggan Smith. All these people I worked with were 100% supportive of me being in that environment, and they were almost like big brothers, protective of me, so that they were kind of the icebreaker around me as I was making my way into a very male-oriented field. So a huge thanks to them for their support there.
Yeah, it's a particularly wonderful group of men, that all those people you mentioned. Absolutely. Alexander is somebody who tunes in every week, and he's all the way over in Novosibirsk in Siberia, and he's asking, he wonders how the Pikasso guitar can survive through the amount of force caused by the tension of the strings. Is the top of the guitar thicker than a regular guitar? Is it heavy? How did you approach the construction of that, Linda?
Surprisingly, that guitar has held up really, really well since I made it in 1984, and it's toured around the world and been dropped and been in all sorts of climates. And Pat pretty much plays it every single night he's on tour, which is hundreds of nights a year. The top is slightly thicker, but not a lot thicker. But what's most important is the bracing. So there's a lattice work of bracing that is compensating for all the string tension. So I knew where the strings were going to be on the top of the guitar, and underneath I put parallel braces to match the string tension. So it was like a little puzzle putting all the struts together so they worked. And I'm actually blown away by how well it survived all these decades and travel. So I gotta say, I nailed that one.
You sure did. I remember Brooke and I went to
without using nails.
Brooke and I went to see the Gary Burton Quartet when they played at the Four Seasons in Toronto. Gary Burton put the quartet back together with Steve Swallow and Pat Metheny. Anybody had Antonio Sanchez playing drums. And yeah, he and Pat did a short set together, where Pat did his tunes on the Pikasso guitar.
It was pretty incredible.
Yeah. Now, of course, he eventually had to ask you to cut one of the headstocks off, didn't it? Like there was the one sort of up near his face, and wasn't it the case that he couldn't really deal with it being right there? Yeah,
it was kind of here. So when he was playing, so I just chopped it off, and so he can lean in more. But I adhered. I kept all the strings. We just used piano tuning, with a little piano tuner. So there's these little pins, but they're lower. So instead of the thing being up here, it's down here. So he can hug the guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave him a cardboard replica, life-size cardboard replica of it before I started building it, so he could have the ergonomics of it, a sense of it a little bit.
Right.
So he was playing air guitar apparently, but this didn't come up. So until I actually made it. So I took a saw and cut off the peg head. Wow. I've got it on my top of my fireplace.
I remember seeing it in your shop just after you cut it off. I went to visit you, and you were just, look what I had to do. It must have been kind of heartbreaking, but it's amazing.
It was
amazing
weird.
You pulled it off.
Yeah.
Susie Vinnick actually points out that there's another luthier named Ashley Leanne Rowley who's in the GTA.
Okay.
So there we go.
Don't know her.
There's another name.
There. Thank you. Hi, Susie.
Brian I guess Brian's still in Colorado, right, Brian? He wants to know how did you get into making baritones? He says his fan fret that you made is a remarkable instrument. So obviously, Brian is a lucky owner of a Linda Manzer guitar.
Very cool.
Brian Trusby is one of the most soulful players
brilliant guitar player.
You just melt. He was. I met him at. Hi, Brian. Thanks for tuning in. The baritone. What was the question?
How did you get into making baritones?
That was actually Craig Snyder in New York asked me to make a guitar that he asked me to make the first baritone guitar because there was no acoustic baritones out there. So he and I worked on it, and I made the first one for him, which he went and showed Pat Metheny about 3 or 4 days after he got it. And Pat called me up and he said, "I want one yesterday." So I made one for him. And Pat had been taking my guitars and stringing them low. So he actually on his computer he had I remember seeing on his computer a little thing that said Linda strung low, and it was the Linda 6 guitar, which was the first guitar I made him. And he would just tune it down, A to A, the whole guitar. And of course, it just made sense. Why had I not thought of this? Is just make a baritone guitar, something between a guitar and a bass guitar.
Yeah.
And so it took a few tweakings, and I think Brian's got kind of where I arrived at what I think is the best combination of all the features. It's got a wedge. I think it's got a fan fret. Brian, if you can just say yes or no, I forget. And,
yes, it is a fan fret. That's right.
Okay, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
Well, my understanding, I think I'm right on this, that Pat tunes his baritone to A, so very low, even a tone lower than a lot of people do. And then he uses Nashville stringing on it, so the 2 middle strings are up an octave. So it's kind of interesting because, I mean, that's usually done as an overdub guitar kind of stringing to sort of double up it's like an abbreviated 12-string approach. But what he ends up doing with it is he can play voicings where, in a very jazzy kind of way, he can play parts of the chord above the melody, which is very often done on the piano, for example, when you're comping and you're soloing. Sometimes your solo is in the middle of a voicing and you're playing bass notes and you're playing higher notes above the melody. And so he can achieve that very tastefully with that. And, I'm sure he thinks about it very carefully before he does it. So that's a cool idea.
That's a left brain, right brain kind of thing.
It's the man with two brains, basically. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We have another question. Here, Linda. Kerstin in Germany. She's saying, how often do you actually play guitar besides building these beautiful instruments? Do you enjoy just sitting down and playing like most of us here?
I'm not I used to be a really okay guitar player, but then what happened is I would start playing the guitar and I would realize 5 minutes had gone by and I'm just sitting staring at it because I'm thinking about how to construct it. So it's not great for practicing. So I threatened to take it up again, but I think I could pick it up like riding a bicycle, but I do play them a little bit, but my focus is on making them sound as good as and feel as good as possible. So I get a little distracted. I leave it to people like you and yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but no, I'm not, I'm not a campfire. You don't want to sit around a campfire with me playing guitar. No.
I know a couple of people have mentioned that Brooke's mic is really quiet.
Always too quiet.
And she's always too quiet. I've got it cranked and I'm trying to get her to get closer to it. There we go. Do the FM DJ thing.
How's this, guys?
It looks good. It looks good.
It is. It looks really quiet. You are quiet.
I know. I think I'm feeling quiet today. I just want to listen, but I guess I'll yell a little louder. It's fine.
That's good.
Okay.
Barb in New Brunswick is saying that she's really fortunate to have acquired a 1980 Manzer 5 years ago. She said it was indeed the most beautiful guitar she's ever played or will ever have the opportunity to play. So there's a lovely endorsement there for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Barb. I'm happy it found its way to your hands.
So would that have been
1980? I was 6. I was 6
Oh,
when I made that.
You and me both, girl.
Yes. I would have been a flat top.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, lovely.
1980. I'd been building guitars for 6 years at that point, or 5 years, 5 years.
Cool. That's awesome.
Would have had one of the smaller sound holes, I think.
So can I? Am I interrupting you?
Nope.
Do you have a question? What are you working on these days? What's in your hands right now?
Arch tops. I've got about 8 guitars that I'm trying to get ready. I'm really behind on my building schedule because I've been working on a guitar, or the Sunflower Guitar Project, which you may or may not know about. And so I'm really behind. So I've got some flat tops, a couple of arch tops. I'm making a guitar for somebody, and the theme of it is magic. So, and he's just said I could do whatever I wanted. So I decided this is my the bells and whistles guitar that it's almost done, but I'm not quite ready to reveal it. It's behind me in a case, but it's got a few tricks in it. So, but I've been learning magic tricks, as part of my research. So pick a card.
The middle one.
Yeah, okay, great. So I'm learning how to do stuff like playing around with cards, which is quite satisfying.
Oh, wow.
So that's been my little hobby. It was very amusing during COVID, right? Because anybody who was in my bubble was a captive audience to my horrible magic tricks. So
it. And now your guitars will have like flowers popping out of sound holes and just
rabbits,
the
doves.
will explode.
Yeah, feathers. Yeah.
It saws itself in half, and I don't know.
Well, yeah. If
There's
they
a couple-
fall apart, that's why.
A couple of beautiful instruments behind your left shoulder there, Linda. I see both a flat top and an arch top. Any special stories behind those?
Oh, are they? Oh, yes. Well, they just happen to be sitting on my work.
Oh, hello.
Gee, they're always just sitting around on workbenches in all our finished guitars. Oh, yes.
Enlighten us.
Oh, yeah. The one directly behind me is the Sunflower guitar.
Okay.
Oh, that's the sunflower.
Yeah, and the one behind that is an arch top that I call the Solstice, with the offset sound holes, and that's an instrument that it's got a bear claw top, and yeah. Do you want me to grab the sunflower?
Yeah, and we can have a little chat about that project.
We'd love to
Sure.
tell
I'll
everybody.
just take my earphones off. Just
Sure,
a
sure.
sec.
Ooh la la. So Linda has built this special guitar as
Okay, there.
a fundraising opportunity for the people of Ukraine. So she can tell us more about it. And one of the things the details I noticed about this is you're holding it really close to the camera right now, is the headstock itself. Is it, from what I can tell, is it meant to look like a Van Gogh painting?
Well, it kind of, he certainly had an influence on it. I'm using watercolor pencils, and I scribble the sky and there's sunflowers. I don't know if you can see the sunflowers at the bottom.
Yes.
And then the big sunflower is 23 pieces of gold mother of pearl. So it's kind
Wow.
of white pearl with a little bit of color. Yeah. And then I put my name. I'd originally thought I was going to auction or raffle the guitar. And then one of my clients just donated on its behalf a huge amount of money to a charity. And it kind of became his because he outdid what I'd hoped I was going to raise with it.
Wow.
And he handed it back to me and he said, continue fundraising.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
It's yours to do. And he said, can we make it a gift to the people of Ukraine? So it actually goes to Ukraine, and maybe it's in a music institute or something. So that's what the plan is to been sending it through the hands of many players, so that they touch it and feel it, and it's got their vibe in it. And it's got a little bit of a yellow top on it. The sides, I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit, sorry, I'm trying not to bang it, my workbench. So you can see there's a little bit of blue here.
Yes.
And it's got kind of tortoiseshell-ish plastic. The Indian rosewood back and sides. I made it in 29 days, thinking somehow it was. I built it because I was frustrated with, as everybody was when it started happening, that there was nothing we could do. And then I realized this is something I could do, and would be something positive rather than, and the side dots, I don't know if you can see that, are yellow and blue.
Yeah, beautiful.
Beautiful work, exquisite, just exquisite.
So can we follow
Thank you.
this
I just-
project on the sunflowerguitar.com here? Is that
Yeah,
where we can kind of
yeah, and if anybody wants to donate, large or small, all the little donations add up, and the money is going to two charities, one in Canada, the Canadian Ukrainian Foundation. So the GoFundMe button, when you on either one of the U.S. or Canadian, goes directly to the charity, and then you can get a charitable tax receipt. We pick charities that would give tax receipts, and we also pick charities that we liked. And I started doing this, and I've got a little team of people who have been helping me. So while it looks like I'm doing all the work, running it around, I'm not. I've got wranglers in various cities who've been putting the guitar into the hands of some pretty big stars. And it's right now, and we're having them sign the case, which is behind me there. Case was donated by Jeff Hoffey.
very cool.
Yeah, blue and yellow, like the flag colors. It's got 115 signatures on it right now. It's been in the hands of about 200 musicians. It has been recorded. So the money goes in Canada, the Canadian Ukrainian Foundation, and in the United States, it's going to something called the 1K Project, which delivers $1,000 cash, mostly to women and children who've lost everything. So it's all humanitarian aid, and they are a great charity that was the one my friend who did the large donation gave the money to start with. And I've worked with them, and they're great they're all volunteers, and it's a very efficient way of getting money directly to people who need it right now. So, and the money is going directly to families. So it's helping, but also we're trying to raise awareness. So about, because Ukraine is going off the headlines, but the need is still huge, and winter's coming, and people have, lost everything.
Yeah.
So this is just to let the people of Ukraine know we're supporting them. And the list of people who have contributed and the team behind, like Tony Duggan-Smith fretted the guitar, David Wren photographed the guitar, a couple of people have helped with sending the guitar around financially, paying for the shipping. We had a wrangler, Steve Bennett, in the East Coast. We had Joe Glazer in Nashville and Isaac Jang in Los Angeles, who all spent huge amounts of time out of their busy lives to just take the guitar around to people like, Keith Urban, Dolly Parton, Nigel Tufnell from Spinal Tap.
Yes, Nigel. All right.
We got Nigel's signature on.
That's fantastic.
Brian Trusby, who's watching, played a beautiful piece on it, which we'll be featuring on the website very soon. Joni Mitchell, Graham Nash, James Taylor, Bill Frisell, did I say Dolly Parton? I mean, I can't. The list is insane. Vince Gill, Clint Black, Peter Frampton. I guess Don Ross is missing on this list, isn't he?
Well, I'm right here. I'm not missing.
I have to get this. have to get it into your hands.
Yeah, that's right. Well, in the lower left corner of the screen, you can see a link to sunflowerguitar.com. So that's the viewers can see that, Linda. So I put both your Manzer.com link as well as the sunflowerguitar.com link there. And I thought for a minute we could maybe take a look at one of these videos that you had made of people who have played the guitar recently. So there's this one called Sunflower Guitar by Linda Manzer making its way around the world to Ukraine. So maybe we'll take a look at that one quickly.
Hi, my name is Linda Manzer. I'm a guitar maker, and I made a guitar similar to this one as a gift to the Ukraine to raise money for humanitarian aid. And the guitar is on a journey now on its way to Ukraine via the hands of many musicians around the world.
I'm from Kiev, Ukraine originally, and I'm really honored and grateful to play this guitar, Sunflower by Linda Manzer.
And it's currently actually in Nashville, and it's going to be traveling through various musicians' hands, and it's a fundraiser. And if you want to donate to humanitarian aid, go to www.sunflowerguitar.com. You can watch its journey, and you can donate. And the need is great.
I'm extremely honored to be here playing Linda Manzer's Sunflower Guitar for the people of Ukraine. It's an incredible instrument, which is no surprise. It's an amazing sound. Her guitars sound like guitar-shaped piano to me.
Beautiful. Lovely little video.
Please share that on all your
Thank you.
socials, all you viewers. Get the word out there. You know, word of mouth is a very powerful tool, so let's take this opportunity to be so.
You betcha.
Right on.
And a bunch of people are offering to play the guitar. So you have takers for players. Great. Well, this is really exciting. I had one other question for you. What would you say is sort of the, and I think I know the answer, but so because you specialize partly in making archtop guitars, which a lot of luthiers do, in your output, what's sort of the ratio between flat top and archtop guitars? How many archtops would you maybe make in a typical year?
Archtops take about twice as long to make. It takes me about twice as long. I would say the ratio right now is about 2/3 flat top. No, sorry, 3/3 flat top, 2/3 archtop, kind of. So
that makes
in a
5/3.
5/3.
Did
That's a
it?
great time signature.
Wait, what did I say? You should see my fretwork. None of my guitars play in tune. Okay.
I love it.
Yeah,
That's
just,
amazing.
I've been talking to Nigel
No,
Tufnell too much.
That's
So
good. That's my kind of match. I love it.
volume of.
I don't know if you've noticed this. I
I
don't know
would
if you've
say-
noticed this when you go through the States. They have a bank called 5/3 Bank. I've never understood that one. Anyway,
Really?
sorry. Yeah, there's a bank called. Somebody's got to explain that one to me.
Okay,
I'm
let's
sure
say-
I could just look it up.
So 5/3.
Let's say 50-50
All right.
for the sake of
Love it.
argument 50-50.
That's hilarious.
You're gonna be giggling about that for a while.
Yeah.
A lover
At
of
my
thirds.
expense, right?
I'll take 5. Not told 5. Very cool. And would you say
I'm
that,
not very good at this.
the demand, like, would you say that, what's my question? Is that, yeah,
Sorry.
thanks. I'm glad you laughed. 'Cause I don't know what's happening. How about let's take a question from the audience, shall we?
Well, it's been wonderful to have you here today, Linda, and thanks to everybody for your patience off the top. I know now, okay, Castine, don't worry, I took notes. I know which boxes to check next time that happens. And I probably should have just done a quick little online check of it too, so I could have watched a recording of it. But anyway, I'll remember all these things next time. There's always some last minute stupid thing that happens when you're trying to stream something. 5/3 of the time it happens. That's true. That's true. So it's been really nice to have my better half, Brooke Miller, here today, dropping in, asking some quiet questions over here in the corner. And of course, our dogs have been making various cameo appearances throughout. Linda, thanks again. Of course, I usually offer to pay our guests, but Linda has asked that the money go as a donation to the Sunflower Guitar Project. So obviously it's a fantastic idea, a fantastic charitable cause. So please visit and do what you can to support that. And thanks again, Linda. Anything you want to tell us last minute?
No, it's thank you. It's such a pleasure to hang out with you guys.
Oh yeah, it's great to see you.
Honored to be. Yeah, this is great that you're doing this, and yeah, I have nothing else to say. Just I hope I get to see you in person at some point again soon. Yeah, because you're lovely, and it's great that you're sharing yourselves with the world this way. So you're both incredible musicians, and yeah, I'm happy to know you.
Thanks much.
For inviting me.
Well, feelings mutual. Of course, here at the bottom of the screen here, in the bottom right, you can see a link to the Don Ross Guitar Academy, who is bringing you this live stream today. So that's our teaching website. So if you're a beginner guitarist or an intermediate guitarist, we have a bunch of lessons for both those levels right now. We're working on the advanced level stuff as we speak, as well as some more intermediate stuff. Also, the very bottom of the screen, you can see a link to my podcast, and I put up a new episode yesterday, an interview, part 2 of an interview I did with Mark Beneteau, who makes my guitars. So lots of lutherie on the go this week. So thanks for joining us. Thanks again to Linda Manzer and my smaller group, the Not So Public group. I'll see you next week. And thanks for being with us, and thanks, Brooke, for being here too.
Bye, Linda. It's great to see you. We'll see you again in person.
Yeah.
Okay? All right.
On the way out, we're going to watch one more video about the Sunflower guitar, and it's another little blurb about it from Linda. Here we go. Thanks again.
Bye, everyone.
Hi, my name is Linda Manzer, and I'm a guitar maker. I made this guitar at the beginning of the invasion of Ukraine. I couldn't sleep, and like many people around the world, I was very distressed, trying to figure out what I could do to help. And the only thing I could do was what I'm good at is I decided to make a guitar. So I dropped everything and I started making this guitar about 3 days into when the invasion started, and I worked on it nonstop until it was done. The purpose of this guitar is to honor and show support for the people of Ukraine, and also this is a fundraiser. My goal with this guitar is that every penny of it will go to humanitarian aid in Ukraine, and I'm hoping to raise as much money as possible for that. Also, it's so the people of Ukraine know that they have support around the world. People are thinking of them, and I want them to know that. And my fondest wish is that this guitar will eventually find its home in Ukraine, where it can live and musicians there can play it. Details of how you can help, and every little bit helps, are in the description below this video, and just follow the links, and please give as generously as you can afford, because the need is great and I'm sure it will be greatly appreciated. And special thanks to Jeff Hoffey, who made the incredible case that this guitar is going to live in, and for his generosity of donating that case to this cause. Thanks, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.